Welcome back, everyone. I hope the break gave you a chance to reflect on the performance monitoring and evaluation system framework we discussed in part 1. The second and perhaps most critical part of our session will focus on the classroom observation tool or COT. This is where the theoretical standards of the PPST, the beginning proficient, highly proficient, and distinguished stages come to life in your actual teaching practice. As the second part of our session, we are going to dive into a key component of this system, the classroom observation. This process is essential for our professional growth, providing objective feedback to help us continually improve our teaching practice and align with the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers or PPST. Let's start by looking at the tools we use for this. First, we have the observation notes form. This is where the observer will record their specific, detailed, and objective observations and comments during the class. Think of this as the raw data. It captures exactly what happened in the classroom to support the final rating. Next is the rating sheet. This is the core of the evaluation. Observers use this form to actually indicate the rating level achieved by the teacher for each specific indicator. The rating should directly correspond to the evidence recorded in the notes form. Finally, we have the Inter-Observer Agreement form. This is a crucial form for transparency and fairness, especially when two or more observers are involved. This form is used to discuss, reconcile, and ultimately determine the teacher's final rating, ensuring everyone is on the same page. Now let's look at the language of the rating itself. The COT uses a 9-level rubric to describe the quality and depth of teaching practice demonstrated by the teacher. The levels range from 1, not evident, where the teacher does not demonstrate the indicator, all the way up to 9 or synthesizing, which represents exceptional practice where the teacher strategically applies knowledge and understanding to foster a culture of critical thinking and lifelong learning. Notice the progression of the descriptions, from demonstrating separate aspects in levels 2, building, and 3, organizing, to demonstrating a greater range and alignment in levels 4, developing, and 5, applying, and then moving to well-connected, integrated, and deeply contextualized practice in levels 6, consolidating, 7, integrating, and 8, discriminating. This rubric provides the common standard for judging practice across all indicators. These 9 levels map directly to the PPST career stages. Levels 1 to 3 begin. For this school year 2025 to 2026, we focus on 9 CO objectives. They cover key areas: content, strategies, critical thinking, classroom management, differentiation, and assessment. Note that NO stands for Not Observed. A valid NO automatically receives a rating of Level 2. Objective 1 assesses your content mastery. The goal is Level 5 or 6, demonstrating accurate and in-depth knowledge of concepts and making meaningful connections across curriculum teaching areas to meet the learner needs. Avoid Level 1 substantial errors. This slide shows another version of the rubric for the same Objective 1, Indicator 1, which focuses on the features of practice for different career stages. Remember that Level 1 to 5 typically corresponds to the beginning to proficient stages. Notice the clear differences in the features. In the lower levels, like the first and second columns, the focus is on errors and limited knowledge. But moving toward the right, in the columns corresponding to the proficient stage, the features shift to clearly explaining concepts, making no content errors, displaying comprehensive understanding of the structure of the teaching area, and demonstrating conceptual knowledge. The ultimate goal, as seen in the last column, is to display extensive knowledge and ensure the content and focus are congruent with the big ideas and structure of the teaching area. Now let's examine Objective 2, focusing on our ability to integrate literacy and numeracy strategies. Again, observe the progression. In Level 1, you don't use any strategies for these skills. In Level 3, strategies are loosely connected, meaning they aren't fully integrated into the lesson. To reach the proficient level, you must consistently and frequently apply relevant strategies that enhance these skills. Level 6 represents the highest level of consistent application for this specific career stage. Finally, here's another look at Objective 2. Focus on the features of practice that describe the application of literacy and numeracy strategies. In the first few columns, we see a lack of reference, unrelated activities, or failure to develop the concepts fully. This is what we must avoid. What we aim for is the description in the rightmost columns, providing activities that enhance literacy and or numeracy skills in almost all aspects of the lesson. It's about seamless and effective integration, not just one isolated activity. Our third objective is all about intellectual challenge, higher order thinking skills or HOTS. This assesses how effectively you move learners beyond simple recall and understanding. Look at the lower levels. Level 2 involves mostly low order questions or routine activities. This is the baseline we need to move past. To transition to the proficient level, you must consistently use strategies that encourage learners to interpret, explain, or describe ideas learned. Level 4. The goal is levels 5 and 6. Here, you must employ a range of targeted follow-up questions that actively challenge learners to justify their thinking and effectively engage them in deep discussion. This means asking why and how rather than just what. The evidence should show learners actively constructing and defending their own ideas. The features of practice clarify what HOTS looks like in the classroom. Notice the shift, moving from simple yes, no, or rote type questions, the first three columns, to creating a genuine discussion. For the highest ratings, you must employ strategies that ensure all learners are given opportunities to give opinions and react to others and provide adequate time for them to respond. Ultimately, you are ensuring that all voices are heard and that the discussion is a cognitively challenging, interactive exchange of views, a hallmark of advanced instruction. Objective 4 addresses classroom management and physical environment. This isn't just about keeping things neat, it's about making the physical space work for meaningful, active learning. In the lower levels, the teacher either fails to manage the structure or fails to engage learners. To hit the proficient stage, level 5, you must effectively manage the classroom structure and engage the majority of learners in meaningful exploration, discovery, and hands-on activities. The ultimate goal, level 6, is engaging all learners in this meaningful hands-on work. Your physical setup, whether it's grouping, station rotation, or lab work, must directly facilitate that maximum engagement. The features of practice here show how to transition the physical learning environment. We move from a poorly arranged or unstructured classroom to one where the teacher effectively structures the layout and uses available resources to involve the majority of learners in productive work. The best practice found in the last column is maintaining a learning environment that is free from congestion and actively facilitates activities appropriate for all learners to work productively within the time allotted. The classroom structure is a teaching strategy. Objective 5 or Indicator 12 in the PPST manage learner behavior constructively by applying positive and non-violent discipline to ensure learning-focused environments. Objective 5 focuses on constructive behavior management. This requires applying positive and non-violent discipline to maintain a learning-focused atmosphere. The foundation is having established rules. Level 1 is marked by a total absence of established rules. To climb to level 4, you must at least occasionally manage misbehavior against established rules, with the majority of learners following them. For levels 5 and 6, the management must be frequent and consistent, resulting in most or all learners following the established rules of conduct. Consistent application is the key factor that moves you from level 4 to level 6. The features of practice provide clear benchmarks for behavior management. Avoid level 1's mistake, ignoring noise or misbehavior. Instead, establish clear standards of behavior that are consistently reinforced and known to most or all learners. An observer in a level 5 or 6 classroom will see an appropriate classroom management system being implemented, one that is responsive to the class and individual needs. Effective management means responding appropriately and promptly, often using nonverbal signals to stop misbehavior without any loss of instructional time. Objective 6 is perhaps one of the most critical in the PPST: differentiated and developmentally appropriate learning experiences. Differentiation means modifying instruction to meet the gender, needs, strengths, interests, and experiences of your diverse learners. Avoid level 1, which provides no experiences that address needs. The, the goal is sophisticated approach. Level 5 means you provide differentiated experiences to address the needs of the learning needs of learners in general. Level 6 is the highest mark for teachers 1 to 3, where you address the needs of different groups of learners, showing specific targeted strategies for varied groups, not just the class as a whole. How do we prove differentiation? The features of practice guide us. We move from relying on a single, potentially inappropriate strategy, levels 2 to 3, to a multifaceted approach. To be highly proficient, you must address the developmental levels and use differentiation to enable most learners to progress towards intended outcomes. The ultimate evidence, or the level 6, is supporting learners' needs through a variety of strategies, materials, and pacing. Your goal is to use differentiated strategies that motivate and engage groups of learners, making the learning challenging and accessible for everyone. Our next indicator, Objective 7, focuses on the developmental sequencing of your lesson, how you structure the lesson's flow to maximize learning. Sequence is about logic and coherence. A level 1 lesson is not sequenced. A level 2 lesson is poorly sequenced, meaning the steps do not logically lead to the objective. To score level 5 or 6, you must implement a lesson that is well structured and employs appropriate elements of a developmentally sequenced teaching and learning process. The flow itself should be evidence that you planned the steps with the learner's cognitive development in mind. The features of practice for Objective 7 define how effectively you structure your lesson to ensure developmental flow. Proficient practice level 5, the teacher connects outcomes from previous and future learning and ensures smooth transitions between activities. High standard level 6, the sequence of activities purposefully scaffolds learners towards achieving objectives and keeps them engaged with a clear sense of purpose from start to finish. The goal is a structured lesson that logically constructs student understanding. Objective 8 focuses on how you utilize instructional materials and resources, including ICT. This is about purposeful selection and effective use. In the lowest levels, the teacher either doesn't use resources or uses ones that are poorly thought out, or unsuitable. A level 3 teacher uses a variety of resources, but they don't actually support the learning goals. They are decorative, perhaps, but not functional. To be rated proficiently, you must utilize a variety of materials and resources that are aligned with instructional purposes and support the learning goals. The highest rating level 6 means your materials are always aligned and always support the goals. Your choice of resource, whether a simple chart or an advanced ICT tool, must have a clear instructional function. Objective 8 assesses the purposeful use of resources and ICT. Level 3 warning: the teacher uses a variety of materials and resources that do not support the learning goals. The high standard, level 6, the teacher utilizes a variety of instructional materials and resources that are aligned with instructional purposes which always support the learning goals. Our final core objective for the classroom observation, Objective 9, is about assessment strategies. This ensures that your methods of checking learning are appropriate and aligned with the curriculum. The scale progresses from Level 1, no assessment during the lesson, to Level 4, where a range of strategies is used, but only some are aligned with the learning goals. To achieve Levels 5 and 6, you must use a range of assessment strategies that address most or all of the learning goals. Level 6 requires that assessment strategies are consistent with the curriculum requirements, meaning they truly measure what the curriculum dictates. The features of practice for assessment clarify how quality is judged. Low-level assessment often focuses on task completion or compliance rather than measuring learning outcomes. For the highest ratings, the teacher predominantly uses assessment strategies embedded as an integral part of the lesson. Think effective questioning, quick checks, or mini quizzes that feed back immediately into instruction. Furthermore, the teacher encourages learners to assess and monitor the quality of their work against the criteria. This promotes self-regulation and makes assessment a collaborative process. Let's look at examples of applying content knowledge within and across curriculum areas or Objective 1. Mathematics or for grade 8, when teaching linear equations, the teacher doesn't just teach the formula. They give it real-world context by calling it a predictive cost model and connecting it to APP or TLE through business or costing. This shows cross-curricular knowledge and makes the math meaningful to the student's life. Araling Panlipunan Grade 7, when discussing typhoons, the teacher accurately connects Philippine geography to science or earth science, explaining the role of climate change and solar energy in weather patterns. This demonstrates accurate, in-depth knowledge across disciplines, showing the lesson content is congruent with the big ideas. Another example of rich content application in Filipino Grade 9 for Objective 1. When analyzing poetry, the teacher goes beyond simply defining the metaphor. They simplify the abstract concept to convey the emotional weight, not just the technical definition. More importantly, they make a cross-curricular link to MAPE, music in particular, by using tempo and melody to represent abstract feelings. This illustrates a teacher's ability to connect concepts meaningfully and address learners' confusion with conceptual clarity. These next slides show how to integrate literacy and numeracy into any subject. Objective 2. In this English for grade 7 oral communication example, the teacher integrates numeracy by requiring students to use statistical facts or figures, percentages, ratios, or counts in their persuasive speech. The speech is still English, but its quality depends on the correct application of a numeracy skill to build an evidence-based argument. Another example for TLE EPP Grade 9 Cookery Baking. Instead of just following a recipe, the teacher enhances numeracy by making students perform measurement conversion, imperial to metric, and cost analysis or calculating total cost and cost per serving. These practical applications demonstrate that numeracy is a necessary skill for vocational and daily life tasks. In MAPE Grade 10, another example for Objective 2 Arts, the teacher integrates literacy by requiring students to write a formal art critic. The key is the specific, high-level vocabulary required, descriptive adjectives, terms of formal composition. This elevates a simple description into an academic exercise using literacy skills to articulate a complex interpretation. Let's see how to craft HATS questions for Objective 3. In English, Grade 10, instead of asking the low-level question, is technology good or bad? The teacher uses a provocative high-level question for a four corners debate. Is the convenience afforded by technology worth the erosion of traditional community ties? This requires students to evaluate trade-offs and justify their stance on a complex, nuanced issue, a true critical thinking exercise. Another challenging hot scenario for TLE-EPP Grade 9 Food Preservation. Instead of asking for a simple recall of preservation methods, the teacher presents an authentic, complex scenario, like lost power for 2 weeks. Students must design a system, creative thinking, apply knowledge of multiple preservation methods, evaluate risk, and propose mitigation strategies. This moves the task far beyond recall and into complex problem solving. These examples show that high-level practice is about intentional planning, integration, and intellectual challenge. Another example in ESP Grade 7 for Objective 3, Responsible Parenthood. The teacher avoids simple definition and presents a complex ethical dilemma, justifying a father's duty to provide financial security versus his duty to provide emotional presence using Maslow's hierarchy as a framework. This high-level challenge requires students to evaluate priorities, apply a learned theory, that is Maslow's, and synthesize a nuanced argument moving far beyond simple recall and directly fulfilling the requirement to develop critical thinking. Let's look at how good classroom structure supports engagement, starting with social studies. Objective 4 is about managing your physical learning environment. Here, the challenge is managing groups doing a large historical timeline without creating congestion. Instead of letting students crowd the floor, the teacher ingeniously uses vertical wall space for each group. This simple structural change, working vertically, not horizontally, keeps the aisle clear, keeps students contained, and allows everyone to work productively within the time limit. This demonstrates efficient management of the physical space to facilitate active learning. In this science grade 7 lab, the teacher manages limited resources with a staggered laboratory rotation. The class is divided into three teams that rotate every 15 minutes between the lab stations, data analysis at desk, and reading preparation. This prevents all students from rushing the sinks and crowded workspaces simultaneously, making the entire period productive and safe. For music, introduction to musical instruments, the teacher uses an efficient material pass system. One complete set of instruments is placed at the corner desk of each row. The student at the corner desk uses it first, then passes the entire container down the row when signaled. This structured passing keeps students seated and ensures everyone gets hands-on time quickly. This example for Objective 5 shows a non-punitive protocol for the no-zone phone rule. If a phone is seen, the teacher quietly asks the students to put the phone in a designated phone holder basket and complete a reflection sleep. This immediate and consistent enforcement, prioritizing learning time without confrontation. The one-row dismissal system uses peer-supported accountability to manage end-of-class behavior. Another example for Objective 5. The teacher announces that only the row that is 100% compliant with the log out and tidiness rules will be dismissed. If one row fails, for example, a computer is left on, they remain seated while the next compliant row is checked. This makes the rule important to every student, ensuring compliance before the time is up. Another example for Objective 5 is the 3 reminder 1 action protocol for wandering behavior. After a silent hand gesture and a quiet verbal reminder, the third violation results in calmly moving the student to a designated focus desk. This temporary change in seating reinforces the rule that individual focus is paramount. In MAPE, we're moving to Objective 6. Health nutrition differentiation is based on existing knowledge. The intervention group or the need in reinforcement receives a simple, concrete task, cut and paste food pictures into go, grow, or glow sections to ensure foundational understanding. While for the challenge group, or those who are ready for application, receives a complex hypothetical family scenario with dietary restrictions and must create a 7-day meal plan adhering to the restrictions. Another example for Objective 6, TLE-EPP technical drafting example differentiates tasks based on spatial reasoning skills. The hands-on group or the tactile learners receives wooden blocks to measure and label with dimension lines, a tangible task, while the abstract group for visual learners receives complex multi-view drawings and must use a scale to calculate the total volume and surface area, a high-level calculation task. The English Analyzing theme for Objective 7 lesson uses a structured SIT summary info theme approach for developmental sequencing. Again, this is for Objective 7. Summary or recall, students list main plot events. In infer or analyze, the students identify and analyze a literary device such as symbol or metaphor. Then theme or synthesize, students use their analysis to write a definitive thematic statement. This three-step process ensures students construct the theme logically. The science, density, and buoyancy lesson uses the structured VCM or the Visualize, Calculate, Model process. Visualize or concrete hands-on activity of floating or sinking through observation. Then calculate or abstract formal calculation of density using formula and using measurements, a challenging step. And model or application, designing a functional boat out of aluminum foil. This sequence moves students from concrete observation to practical application. For objective number 8, in science, the solar system, the learning goal is to compare orbits and sizes. Instructional materials are physical, scaled-down models, and a long string show relative size and orbital distance. For the ICT integration, the teacher projects an interactive online simulation like a NASA visualization to allow students to speed up the orbits, providing a dynamic comparison of orbital periods. For health, first aid for burns, the goal is procedural mastery, again for objective 8. Instructional materials include physical first aid materials and a large color-coded flip chart listing the do's and don'ts. For the ICT integration, the teacher uses a quick loop animated video demonstration showing the correct way to treat a burn, followed by a digital quiz via QR code that tests procedural recall. Moving on to the illustrative examples for Objective 9. In mathematics, solving quadratic equations for grade 9, the teacher uses two key strategies. First, embedded assessment. A whiteboard quick check is used after the first two examples for instant feedback, allowing the teacher to immediately identify students needing remedial instruction or enrichment. Then, encouraging self-monitoring, a simple 3-point success checklist is posted. Like, did they set the equation to 0? Students use this list to grade their partner's work before submission. For Objective 9, PE, locomotor skills, the goal is to assess and improve skipping form. Embedded assessment, the teacher uses stop and freeze checks. Students stop instantly, allowing the teacher to quickly scan and give a brief class-wide correction on form. Example, opposite arm or leg movement in real time. For the self-monitoring, students work in pairs with a peer assessment card listing 3 criteria. High knee, example, high knee lift, push off, and rhythm. The partner uses the card to give immediate feedback. This entire presentation from Objectives 1 through 9 is designed to serve as your operational map for excellence in the classroom. The classroom observation tool is not a punitive measure. It is a diagnostic and prescriptive tool that guides your journey in the PPST career stages. Remember these key principles. Number 1, be intentional. Every activity, every resource, and every question must have a clear instructional purpose tied directly to your learning goals. Second, be consistent. Your classroom management and behavioral systems must be consistently reinforced to ensure a learning-focused environment. Third, be responsive. Use assessment not just to grade, but to respond to student needs through targeted intervention and differentiation. Thank you for your commitment to professional growth and for dedicating your time today. We look forward to supporting you as you apply these strategies and continue to move toward a distinguished teacher career stage. Thank you so much for your attention. Again, this is the second part of our session focusing on the classroom management in the context of the DepEd Memorandum Number 089 Series of 2025. Good day, everyone. Again, I am your learning facilitator, Roslyn De La Serna.